For instance, you remember the hair extensions that were on TV? Okay. All three of those television shows, there was one that Guthrie Renker did, there was one that National Media did with Priscilla Presley, and there was another one that was done by Mike Levy. And you know, wow, she looks great now, you know. And they had those and had a 30% return rate, which ate up their profitability. They expected to have a 10 or 12% return rate, and their profitability was in the anticipated returns versus the actual returns. The reason is that most women weren't satisfied with the hair color, so they returned the product. But you know, I've got to think that if you're going to get hair extensions, you've got to be pretty pleased with them. And if you aren't, then you're going to return them. But they didn't anticipate that. A lot of profitability in direct marketing is in reducing the return rate that you can potentially have with a product. You can boost your profitability exponentially just by reducing returns. So if you find out A, what they sell the product for, what their upsells are. For instance, when you call in to buy a product and they say, okay, well, this goes along with this product. So they might have a $29.95 product and they have a $19.95 upsell. In other words, when you bought my product from television, I tried to sell you more stuff right at the point of purchase. And there was an operator sitting in Omaha, Nebraska that said, and Mr. Richard, blah, 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 you know, and that's only $19.95, and this is only $69.95. And she tried to make other sales. Okay? When we sold pillows on television, the first thing we did was ask if you wanted a second pillow at a $5 discount. And the other thing that we asked is, do you want a queen, king, or standard size pillow? We had different prices for each pillow. We had a $19.95 product with a $43 average order. If we didn't have those upsells, we wouldn't have made any money. We couldn't have just sold them for $19.95 plus the $5.95 shipping and handling and made any money. So the point is you order one product, you order the same product a second time, and you return it. You see what the return process is. They might be very adroit or very incapable at it. And this will all come full circle in just a moment. Then you go and you can look up and find manufacturers in a few different ways. To manufacture overseas is highly problematic for most people because you have to usually buy things in container loads. You have to buy a lot of a product, and you have to put up a lot of money. You are better off going to the Thomas's directory and looking up manufacturers of products. You can find a directory of manufacturers in any library. You call up a manufacturer and you tell them that you're going to order 10,000 of something or 20,000 of something. What's the price? Not that you're necessarily going to order 10 or 20,000 on the first order, but you want to find out what your price is going to be in 10 or 20 or 50,000 unit orders. Most manufacturers are marketing impaired. It's like hearing impaired, but it's marketing impaired. They're marketing impaired. They don't know how to sell what they have to sell. They know how to make it. They know how to make it real well and real efficiently. And what you do is you find out how they make that product, how long the lead time is to make that product. In other words, if I order today, how long will it take to get it shipped to me? The other thing you want to find out is, can they ship the product for you so you don't have to warehouse it? When we sold pillows on television, we didn't ship any. We did for about 3 days. We said, we don't want to be in the shipping business. This is really bad. I'll never forget, it was a holiday weekend a few years ago, and we were sitting there stuffing pillows into pillowcases. And I said, you know, this is just not going to get it. So we don't want to be in the shipping business. So we called up a manufacturer, and we sourced our product. We sourced it for less, and we put them into the shipping business. We put the UPS computer there. We put the UPS account there. We put them totally in the shipping business. They shipped all the packages. They did all the inserts. They did all the returns. Many manufacturers, if they believe that they will inure a benefit by working with you, and if you're able to display that you know more about direct marketing their product than they do, they will let you come to work with them. And in many cases, they will fund what you did. We had a manufacturer that bought all of our inventory. So at any given time, we had 10,000 pillows in stock, and we hadn't paid for them. We paid for them when we shipped them. They bought all the boxes. We didn't pay for any of the boxes until we shipped them. And they were able to ramp up very quickly because they had probably 25,000 square feet of warehouse space that they didn't know what to do with. So we had a whole shipping facility open up for us with a manufacturer. Now, you know, this is an interesting story because we went and we grossed $1 million on a $5,000 investment within 90 days, all internally financed. So, and anybody can do that. But getting back to it, once you source that product, you try to get the lowest price possible. You also try to get the manufacturer to do as much work as you can for you. But one of the things I look for in business is, can the business be expanded quickly beyond my efforts? There's an understanding in business that I call verticality, and also going horizontal as far as business is concerned. Most businesses function as a result of one person's efforts. For instance, home businesses usually function as a result of one person's efforts. When a business really expands, it expands beyond your efforts. Let me give you a great example. You've been a dentist for years, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In dentistry, you run into the same thing that an attorney runs into. You run into a factor that your worth, as far as on an annualized basis, is equivalent to the amount of patients you see or the amount of clients that you see. In other words, your value goes up to a certain level and then it stagnates unless you find a way to expand yourself and reduplicate yourself. And one of the things that I look at in business is the ability to multiply your business beyond your own efforts, which a lot of people don't think about. And a good example of that is one of our students who's in our current television show, Spiller Anderson. He had a business, but it was all relative to his efforts. He had a small business with about 10 employees. And when you have a business like that, it goes into a lot of what Michael Gerber said, and when he wrote the book, The E-Myth, who's a fascinating person and wrote an incredible book, which everybody should read, because it's very illuminating with what is predominantly the problem of how people view business. A lot of people view that when they're in business, they own a business. And Michael Gerber stated in his book that people actually own a job, which is very true. In other words, if they're not there, it doesn't work. And years ago, I was in a business where if I wasn't there, it didn't work. And I was on a cruise, and I was reading Michael Gerber's book, and I was sitting out there. Of course, you know, the best thing to do on a cruise is to read a business book. Get right away from business. You know, read a business book. And if you bring 3 business books, then you think nothing but business for the whole cruise. But I'm sitting there reading this book, and it really became very, very clear to me that where most of us fail in business is that we work on an issue of verticality. We only work within our own means. And then when we get to the maximum of those means, either one or two things happens. We have to change our lifestyle, which wasn't why we went into business in the first place. We have to work more hours to make more money. Or we have to figure out how to reduplicate ourselves, which is the classic problem for most business people. For instance, when we're talking about the National Direct Internet Yellow Pages, really one of the biggest advantages is we're teaching business people how to do something that is totally foreign in concept to them. You know, the inherent fact of the internet is its direct response in nature. In other words, when you go to Honda's site, unlike their commercials that don't have 800 numbers, or their ads that don't have 800 numbers, they want to get a profile of you. They want to know who you are, what's your email address, how old you are, what your buying habits are, what color car do you want, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's the whole nature of the internet, is rather than being institutional in nature, it's direct response in nature. Whereas in business, most business people are conditioned to institutionally advertise because no one's ever trained them otherwise. And so with the internet, they're able to go out and create a direct response campaign, create business without them having to be there. And thus it gets to the point of my second point as far as evaluating a business. Can I multiply it so I don't have to be there? When you stop and think about it, if you have a business that you own or run or operate, and it doesn't work and it doesn't make money unless you're there, you really don't own a business, you own a job. And Spiller Anderson, along with many people, have realized that if they can reduplicate themselves, they're in a lot better shape. If you stop and think about it, the whole nature of placing an ad, getting it to work, and then multiplying it is based on that mentality. A lot of people have been mystified over the years as to why someone will succeed in direct marketing and succeed very rapidly and grow quickly. And all they're doing is taking a winning selling proposition. I've used the term before, and you've heard it before, remote control selling. You're taking a winning sales proposition and multiplying it. Well, in business, if you don't look at a business and say, can I multiply this through my own efforts and get other ways of developing capital without me having to be there, then you're looking at it in a flawed manner. And you're going to come to a point where at some point in your business you're going to get frustrated and say, you know what, I really hate this business. I know that that's never happened to you or to you. But you sit there and you say, you know, how many times can I get my fingers in someone's mouth, and how many times can I, you know, to file a brief, you sit there and you say, I don't like doing this anymore.
Because duplicate another dentist to do what I'm doing.
Exactly. And that's the problem with private practitioners in business. That's also the problem with most people that are in a localized business. First of all, they went into a localized business because they realized, or they created a business because they realized that most people around them are inept. Most people, I'm giving you the psychology of business people because aside from buying millions of dollars of advertising, I've sold millions of dollars of advertising. We'll go into a lot of the detail of that a little bit later today. But what happens with a business person is a business person goes out, they create a business, they believe that everybody around them is inept, so they have to do everything within the business. So they run a small business, and any of you have had, how many people have had a small business? Okay. When I say small, under 15 employees. All right. So you've had a small business. I know that this won't strike home with you. You've had a small business. You do everything within the business because you believe that everybody's incompetent. Anybody ever had that happen to them? Right? And of course, you know, you sit there and the quandary that you can't grow because you can't train people to grow because they're incompetent. And so therefore, I've got to do everything. And when you stop doing everything, the business stops. Well, the whole nature of what we're trying to create by doing this is we're trying to create a business so that a person that has a local air conditioning business for the first time can make sales without them having to be there, which is a novel concept in itself. And therein lies not only how I evaluate businesses, but also the depiction of the major problem for most small business people. They don't see a way out. They believe that they've got to be there to make the business work. When you stop and think about it, if you have a bakery and you sell bread and cookies and cakes and all those other things, and cheesecakes, and there's one company here that sells nothing but cheesecakes. They're very successful. You know, I try to stay away from there because if I eat a cheesecake, I'll gain like 17 pounds. But the fact is that that business could have an internet site where people can order cheesecakes without them having a store. They could deliver them, they could have people pick them up, but they can actually obsolete retail business. I believe where business will go as a function of being able to have localized shopping online is you won't have the necessity that you've had in the past for people to come to your business place. You won't have the necessity for people to make sales if you can do them online and obsolete the salesperson. And moreover, you'll have the issue of being able to become horizontal in business rather than relying on being vertical, where you'll be able to expand your efforts without you having to be there. That's really what we're trying to accomplish with this project more than anything else. And the educational process, which is very illuminating to business people, and I'll go into a lot of the specifics of how to market advertising and how to market the whole issue of marketing. And when you meet Rich Desposito basically sells air. He sells his air. I mean, he has no product cost. It's his knowledge. And those are great products to be in because when you can sell knowledge and you have no product or manufacturing costs, and then when you can recreate your knowledge and have other people sell your knowledge, you're expanding your business without you having to be there. And he has tons of salespeople now, and he pays them all on straight commission. He doesn't have to be there, and they make the money, and they make a lot of money in the process. But the whole issue is one of the things that I look for is a business has to be able to be expanded beyond my efforts because I don't want to recreate the same trap that I've been in before. When you speak to a business person and they understand that you know that they have a business that doesn't run without them being there, and you have a way out, you've positioned yourself in a unique manner as far as communicating to them a way out of their business and a way to expand their business and make more money. I had a friend that was a computer consultant in Hilton Head Island and making over $100,000 a year. Every time I broke something on my computer or didn't know how to do something, I'd call him and pay him $100 and it would get fixed. Of course, I could have read a manual, but I'm too stupid to read a manual. But he'd come over and do it and fix it. And I asked him one day, I said, how do you plan on expanding your business? And he kind of looked confused. He looked at me like, I don't have any plan to expand my business. It's kind of the way it is. And of course, his answer was, no one else can do what I do. But at the same time, there's other businesses that have multiples of people that do what he does. And they figured out a way to train multiples of people so they could grow horizontally rather than just remain vertically. But our whole issue that we're trying to get across is we're trying to get people to think about how to grow their business beyond their own efforts. And I'm going to tell you that that's a very liberating thought, and anybody that's been in business and understands that you can grow your business beyond your own efforts realizes that that's something that they haven't enjoyed as a freedom in the past. When I talk about Spiller Anderson, what's interesting about him is he certainly realized that he could grow his business beyond his own efforts. I mean, he understood that with direct marketing. He understood that if he placed an ad, he could grow his business, period. End of story. And I think that the one thing that a lot of people get away from is that they get caught up in believing that their business has to function around themselves. For instance, in you expanding a business, what do you want to do? You can either, there's only two ways you can expand a business. What two ways are they? What can you think of?
Hire people.
Hire people, one, which is very difficult. You can hire people, which is problematic, okay? Or you can place more ads, right? Or you can rely on, whether it's ads or direct mail or any aspect of direct marketing, you can rely on those things to expand your business, correct? So there's two ways to expand it. When you leave here, one of the first things you should think about is how to expand your business beyond your own efforts. Once you learn how to do it, what you should do is recreate yourself. If you can recreate yourself, then you'll expand your business. Ultimately, your objective should be is where you don't have to do the work and other people are doing it for you to recreate your business. I mean, stop and think about it. Every one of you bought from me on television. I didn't meet you. I recreated myself as a matter of video. I put myself on video. I created a product that would sell, and I put it out on TV. I don't have to be there. Overnight, we made hundreds of sales. I wasn't there. Today, we'll make hundreds of sales. I'm not there. If you can think in that mentality, that will help give you an edge as far as expanding a business. Because the worst trap you can be in is if you start to get into business and you say to yourself, boy, you know, I'm really working hard. And when you're really working hard, you get to a point where you say, you know, this isn't fun. Because I went into business to have freedom. And then when you take the freedom to take off from business, you realize because I'm not there, we're not making any money. And if you get this perspective in mind right now of how to expand yourself, whether it's through direct mail, whether it's through placing ads, whether it's through hiring salespeople, whether it's through cross-selling and joint venturing, which I'll go into in just a moment, which is a very, very easy way to parasitically work with other people in an ethical manner and have them sell on your behalf. If you start to employ those techniques, it's going to be very, very effective as far as your growth is concerned. If you keep in the mentality, which is partially part of starting up any business, you keep in the mentality that I'm going to just work out of my house, which there's nothing wrong with that. But you'll get to a certain point where you say, well, I'm stuck. I can't go any further. If you start to think beyond that right from the beginning, that yes, I can go further, and here's how I can go further, and I know that there's only a couple ways I can do it. I can either use direct marketing techniques to get there, or I can either go out and hire salespeople, or I can do a combination of both, which is the most effective. You'll realize that you're not going to stagnate as far as your growth and how business is. And that's the second thing that I look for is how to multiply myself. And that's one of the reasons why direct marketing is such a fast growth business. Somebody can come out with a good idea, find an ad that works, place it over and over again. Well, it's the same thing with someone on the internet that's never been exposed to this. You know, it's funny, when I would speak to business people, when I was consulting business people, when I would speak to business people about these techniques, I was just shocked that most people weren't even aware of them. Most people don't even think about, you know, some of the basics. I mean, some of the things that you know, headlines, you know, guarantees, unique selling propositions. They don't think about any of these things. And really what they've been taught is how the business works, but not how to make the business work. And then they get frustrated because most business people have run ads before, and they say ads don't work. The best advertising is word of mouth. You ever heard that? Okay? That's what most business people say because they don't understand how to market anything. They just understand how that business works. And so what I'm looking for is, more than anything else, is to try to take the business person that's out there, and Rich Desposito has done this very successfully, take them and say, okay, wait a second. What doesn't work is your strategy. Let me teach you another strategy that works, that can dramatically increase your business. And that's why he's had results of 20, 50, 100, 200% increases in businesses' profits, just as a result of teaching them 2 or 3 basic techniques as far as business is concerned. But the number one technique is teaching them how to use direct response advertising versus institutional advertising. If you can't get that across to someone, you'll really miss the boat. Because stop and think about it. Many of you have had businesses before. When someone walks into you and they pitch you on advertising, it's the school calendar, it's the bowling alley sheet, It's the rag at the grocery store. It's the penny saver. It's the local newspaper. It's the radio station. It's the TV station. It's the cable TV station. It goes on and on and on and on and on. You know, it's all types of things. Most of those advertising efforts are never accountable. So what do you think? You run your ad. Your ad doesn't have a headline. It's not direct response in nature. You don't get any response and you say it doesn't work. Well, of course it can't work because it wasn't designed to work from the outset. Most business people, when they just hear those 60 seconds that I've shared with you, that most of the reason their advertising doesn't work is, one, you know, it was the wrong advertising in the first place. Two, the way that they communicated their message was horrible. Three, it wasn't direct response. You know, in nature, it was institutional. Once they understand that advertising can work and that they can mathematically build their business, that opens up all the doors for them. One of the things that I'll go into this afternoon, but I want to mention right now, is that when I started selling advertising years ago, what I would do is I would get people involved in the process by showing me all their ads. Well, show me all the ads that you've run. Okay? Person would open up the yellow pages. You know, one of the funniest things in the world is you got to get a kick out is when you open up the yellow page and see people's picture in there. You know that the owner of the business, somebody that sold them Yellow Pages advertising, said, you know, we need to get your picture in there. Well, that's a great idea. I've got a good 8x10. Let's get that in there. But the fact is that somebody put their picture into that ad to satisfy their ego rather than thinking about going out and satisfying what the customer really wants. I mean, it's what I said a little while ago, sell what people want to buy. People could care less about you. They could care less about anything you have to say unless it's a benefit for them. And if you believe that, you're crazy. I mean, they only care what's in it for them. They don't want to see your, you know, I always laugh when I see these ads around Christmas, and, you know, some guy's at a car dealership and he's got a 6-year-old girl that doesn't have any teeth, who's got a big fat dog. And, you know, come on down to my daddy's, you know, Chrysler dealership. You know, who cares? I mean, I want to know, is the car nice? You know, does it get the gas mileage? Does it have the horsepower? Is it comfortable? You know, how many benefits? I don't care about the little girl. And at the same time, they go dissipate $20,000 worth of capital. But, you know, they think it's going to build up business long term. That's hogwash. It's never going to build up business long term. They've got to have some strong proposition that the person buys and comes into the business as a result. So when you stop and think about it, if you don't have a business that can expand, but if you go out to a business person, you can show them how to expand their business without them being there, how to increase their profits. And you can look at all their advertising and look at it. For instance, the quickest thing you can do to improve a Yellow Pages ad is, one, write a headline, and two, key the ad. Most business people go through a quandary when somebody comes out to renew their Yellow Pages advertising on an annualized basis. And they come out and they say, well, Joe, you know, it's that time of the year. We've got to get your new tire shop ad in there. Do you want to change any logos? Oh, well, yeah, we picked up Michelin this year. Let me give you that logo. And you ever seen those tire ads and they got 97 logos? You know, they got Yokohama and Michelin and Dunlop and Pirelli, and, you know, it doesn't tell them why you should come to that tire shop versus anybody else, and they all say the same thing: we have the lowest prices. But it doesn't tell them all the benefits that people want to hear about their business. And when I would look at ads, I'd say, you know, well, tell me, you know, if I'm a consumer reading all these ads, what's in it for me? Most business people can't answer that question. And the quickest way to affect somebody's Yellow Pages advertising, which is a lot of what our focus is with this particular business, is to show them how to create control ads that they can take and transmute and transfer over to other types of media. If you're out there and you're teaching people how to really build their business, which is really the key of direct response, is the ability to quantify results. If you know what your results are, and you know how much, you know, most businesses you go out to, they don't know what it costs. And this is why they can't expand in most cases. They don't know what it costs to expand beyond their own efforts. For instance, they don't know if I place this ad for $100, I get back $700. They don't know if I send out 500 pieces of direct mail that cost me $500, will I get back $3,800.25. They don't know that because they don't know how to do that. They don't know how to quantify results. Really what you are is you're the messenger that comes across them and says, I know how to quantifiably and mathematically build your business. I'm going to show you how. I'm listening. Because most people are coming in, speaking to them, mailing them, soliciting them in some form or fashion of give me money because I want it too. Right? And that's why most business people are turned off by anybody soliciting them something. I mean, stop and think about it. If you ask somebody, show me your advertising efforts, because I'm sure there's two or three things we could do instantly that would increase your business. When you get the attention of a business person, being mindful that it's just like a consumer, that they've got to know what's in it for them, makes all the difference in the world. And so, as I said, I always look for, can I expand a business if I get involved with a business? Can I expand it rapidly? Most business people are caught in a trap where they'd love to know how to do that. They'd love to know how to make more money beyond their own efforts. They have no clue. The internet is the first thing to come to them that can actually remote control their business. And at the same time, in conditioning consumers to buy products, goods, and services that way, that helps expand that process for business people in the local area. That's why when they've done studies and research about local business people not having an internet presence, predominantly the reason that they don't have an internet presence is they can't use one. They don't see the benefit. Most importantly, they don't have a platform in which to intercept people that are going to use their business. So because they don't have a platform, they put out a website, but no one's going to go to it. And that's why, the most successful internet sites have a traffic history. They have people going to it. Just like a shopping mall, they're going to intercept people. But that's the one thing that I look for secondarily, is I look for the ability to expand it, preferably through ads. But people are also a great way to expand a business. I'm going to get into it. Will help you look at how somebody can sell for you without you having to be there. And it's a very, very simple way to work off of what they're doing with their own customers. But those are the two things that I look for, ads or people, as a way of expansion. Because if you don't think ahead of that, then all you're going to do is create a trap for yourself, where you might have a very, very nice business, but all you do is work. And if all you're doing in business is, very few people, I really believe that most people are lazy. Most people are inherently lazy. We don't want to work that hard. We'll work hard if we really love what we do, but really what we want is leisure time. We want to do the things we want to do, and we don't want to be imprisoned into a business. And at the same time, if you don't plan to get yourself out of that type of mentality, you're going to have a lot of difficulty. Next thing that I look for is, can you create licensing ventures with others to sell on your behalf? And this is something that goes hand in hand with what I just brought up. When you stop and think about it, let's say that somebody says, well, I don't have any experience hiring salespeople or motivating salespeople or training salespeople or doing any of those things. Okay. Stop and think about it for just a moment. How many people are there out there communicating with business people on a daily basis that are soliciting business people for other products or even synergistic products that can help you get clientele in building an internet business? I just want you to think about that for a moment. Okay, I'm a person, I own an office supply company, and I'm in Orlando, Florida, and I have 17 salespeople. And every day, they go out and they call on business people to get their office supply accounts. And these are business people that would be perfect prospects for what I have to do. Now I'm going to tell you that it's always easier to acquire someone as a customer on someone's recommendation than it is on a cold solicitation. If you guys drive down the street and you ask a local person, hey, where's a great restaurant to go? Guy says, well, you got to go to this place over here. This is the best place. This is what, I love it. It's a great place to go. And you pick up an ad out of the newspaper and it says, go to this place. Who are you going to trust more? You're going to trust the person that recommended it. That personal recommendation always carries a lot more weight, a lot more endorsement. So the fact is that when I look at business and I look at the fact that often what we do is we think we've got to do everything through our own efforts. We've got to do all the infrastructure ourselves. But I talked about Mike Loria a little bit earlier today. And Mike Loria built a business by coming to us and saying, look, you have hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of students that want to have a merchant account. Everybody familiar with what a merchant account is? You're able to take Visa, MasterCard, Discover, and American Express processing. It is very, very, very difficult to get a credit card merchant account. When we first started out in the business, you can't be in direct marketing without a credit card account. It's kind of like, you can take checks, but you'll miss 80% of your sales because people more impulsive and more often will use a credit card. So I said to Mike, I said, well, you know, he said, I'd like to be able to represent to your customers that we have a merchant account available. And I said, well, there's a couple of conditions. One, you know, I want to make sure that they're automatically approved on products that they represent. And two, that we have the lowest rate possible. The funny thing is this, is that they actually, the company that works with Mike, they actually produced a lower rate for processing credit card transactions for startup accounts as a result of my efforts with Mike than what we were paying with the same bank. I said, wait a second. I said, you know, there's something wrong here. I said, you know, I said, we've created an opportunity for our students that's actually better than ours. And I said, you know, we need to make an adjustment here. So they finally did. After about 30 days, they readjusted our account. But what he did is he simply came to me. He said, I'll do all the work, and I'd like you to license me the right to speak to your customers about a merchant account. And I said, hey, you know, if it's going to be the best service, good company, low transaction fee, and the quick turnaround, automatic approval, where else can you get that? And a lot of students that we've had have called up and said, you know, it was so hard to get a merchant account any other way, but with yours it was automatically approved. And to this day, I know that they've taken anybody that wants to get a merchant account, even people that have had a less than favorable history as far as credit's concerned. On those cases, they've had to put up a deposit. But everybody that wanted a merchant account was able to get one. Well, my point is Mike created over $1 million in net worth through a licensing agreement, just by simply going out and realizing that he could work off of my customer base. Now, this is something I haven't gone into a great deal of detail in the past, but it's one of the easiest ways to make money is through licensing through other people's customer bases. So let me go back to my story. The person has 17 sales reps in the field for an office supply company. Okay. So you've got 17 people out there that represent hundreds of accounts. Every month, those people get what from that office supply company? A bill for their office supplies. Now, most business people, as a rule, if they're still in business, keep on opening their bills. So you have 100% of the people opening up their bills. You have two advantages that you can take advantage of someone that has hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of contacts. One, you can have the salespeople physically selling on your behalf. How do you do that? Well, an owner of a business says, look, this is how much profit I make. Okay? And that business person, if they don't expand upon their local area or get more accounts, their business stagnates. So it makes the same profit from year to year. The easiest way a business person, by the way, can expand their business is to sell more products. So if the office supply person sells other products, in the process, they've already incurred the cost of making the sales call. They're already paying their overhead. Why not add on other products that could add another 20–30% net profit to their business? Most people don't even think about that. But a minor adjustment could double their net profit because they already have those fixed overhead costs into their business. So those are already absorbed. So if they just go a little bit further, they can dramatically increase their profit. Most people don't even think about that, but that's just like when you buy something from television or from print or for some type of direct mail. They know that there's going to be a certain variety of people and a certain segment of people that are going to buy more on the initial sale. That's the best time to solicit somebody.